idiots? It's Jason, Department of Boost. Got Alex behind the camera. You're probably going to see his hands at least later. Today we're going to be correctly shimming the slave cylinder for when you install a clutch. This is a widely misunderstood process. Not even a lot of people know that you need to do it. What you're doing is, when installed, your slave cylinder is compressed like this. When you press on the clutch, it pushes out this way. This is kind of hard to hold. When you push it out it pushes out a little bit, and that releases your clutch so you can change gears. What you want what you don't want is one of two things to happen. One, you don't want this so close to the end that when you press on the clutch, it's pressing up against as far as this thing can travel. You do that enough times, eventually this thing starts to come apart, you got problems. The other thing that you don't want is when you press on the clutch, you don't want it to not move far enough to get the clutch completely disengaged, which you can still shift without the clutch completely disengaging. It's just not quite as smooth, and eventually it beats all your parts up. The trick with this is to shim the slave cylinder on the back side of this, so the slave cylinder range of motion, or the area of travel, is in the Goldilocks zone. It's not in the middle, but somewhere right in there. You press on the clutch, it doesn't get to the end, back, and it's never bottoming out, and it's never going fully extended. And when things get hot, and things get swollen, and things get weird, and you get air in the lines, and there's moisture in the lines, and things get sloppy, you want enough buffer in the system so this thing is completely disengaging the clutch all the time. We have never, not once, put one of these together that didn't need a shim. Will they work without a shim? Yeah, some clutches will, some clutches won't. Do you want to take that chance? Pulling transmissions suck. It's just way easier to do this right from the start. All right, to correctly measure, you got to measure a lot of things. And you really got to pay attention to what you're doing because there's a lot of measurements, mistakes can add up. The first thing that we're going to be doing is measuring from the engine block where the transmission mounts to these fingers on the clutch. This is where the slave cylinder rides, right here. Getting this measurement's a little tricky because these fingers are down inside the clutch, so you can't measure across the back of the clutch, so you got to put something for a spacer in. Put this bar across roughly like this, and Alex is going to help here. And then measure over to the block, and then subtract the distance of this spacer. In this case, we've got 151 millimeters from the distance from the block to the top of the socket. Then we subtract the socket, which is 69.59. That gives us 81.41 millimeters. You're going to want a metric tape measure. A lot of them are metric and standard. You can pick those up, Home Depot, Lowe's, all that kind of stuff. The next thing we're going to measure is the distance from the transmission face to the slave cylinder. You are going to need a bar, like we just used in the last step, and a set of digital calipers. If you don't have a set of these already, turn the video off, go to the store, go get some. You can get them Lowe's, Home Depot, China Freight, all those places. They're as inexpensive as 25 bucks. You will use these things all the time once you buy a set. So go get a set. You really do want to have some.
If you want a nice set, use these ones. What are those?
Yeah, if you want a nice set, as Alex just brought to my attention, Mitutoyos, which are about 100 bucks. But I've had this set for at least 20 years. So you're going to place the bar on the face, make sure it's nice and flat, make sure nothing's holding it up. And you're going to measure from the bar to the top of the slave cylinder, which is a little tricky. Oh, here we go. And that figure is 95.28 millimeters. Then you're going to have to subtract the bar, which is 25.4, which is also an inch because it's an inch bar, and that leaves you with 69.88 millimeters. You obviously want to be noting all this stuff as you go along. Now, all right, the next thing we're going to measure is the travel on the slave cylinder. There are more than one slave cylinder out there, and I have seen them with different travels. So don't take our numbers as being gospel. You want to measure the one that you've got in your hands. Who knows what application it was necessarily for? Who knows what's different? The key number is how far the slave cylinder travels. Right now, we've got it clamped down, so this is fully bottomed out. Take your measurement, which is 77.32 millimeters. Obviously, note that. Then, put your clamp, your straight edge back on here. Next measurement is 114.27 millimeters for a difference of 36.95 millimeters. That's the travel, 36.95 millimeters. Okay, taking all of our numbers that we got from measuring everything, drew a little drawing here for you guys. All your specifications. When the motor and transmission come together, the clutch is going to push the slave cylinder in. As you can see, this number is bigger than this number. So that's going to give you some compression on the slave cylinder. That's what you're trying to set is how much compression it gets by shimming this slave in and out. Here's all of our figures that we took earlier. We got trans to slave, 69.88. Full slave travel, 36.95. Now we're going to have our usable slave travel, which is, we don't want to bottom the slave out, so we want to keep a buffer at the bottom, about a 1/4 inch or 6.35 millimeters. That leaves us with a usable slave travel of 30.6 millimeters. Motor to clutch, 81.41. That's this number right here. When you install everything, you take this 69.88, subtract 81.41, that's going to give you a negative, even though don't worry, that's a negative, a compression of 11.53. That would mean that you need to get this to this minimum usable distance, this 6.35 millimeters to, 1/4 inch, same number. To get that, you would need a shim that is 19.07. Now, you don't have to get all the way down to a 1/4 inch from being completely bottom. There is a range. The range being a 1/4 inch or 250 thousandths. I know, we just switched over to American numbers. Freedom units. Or to 450 thousandths, which is 6.35 millimeters to 11.43 millimeters. This is what you need to get to here. You can hit really anywhere here in the middle. We bought a slave, shim, which if you Google, you're going to find a trillion of them. Just put T56, T56 slave shim in Google, and you'll find about 10 places that make these things. You can get them from little skinny shims to big fat shims. We're going to be using this big fat shim. This guy is going to get us at roughly 7.5 millimeters, right in that range, which is fine. Right in this range of where we want to be. A little bit closer to the bottom because I just feel a little more comfortable to that edge of it. I wouldn't want to get any higher than this 450 thousandths number. But if you're in here, you're good to go. Trying to stay towards this end of it. Do not go any less than 6.35 millimeters. And, it's going to take some screwing around to get this right. It took us some screwing around to get this right and, get the measurements right and somehow get it into video format. This is critical in some situations. And you do not want to pull your transmission back out because you forgot to put something silly like this in, or you didn't take the time to measure for it. So there you go, guys. Hopefully this helps.
Hey guys, Alex here doing the editing. And while the math's up on the screen, I want to thank you guys for watching this far. Like, follow if you want more info on setup and dialing of your Mustang. That's what we specialize in. That's what we do. It's info we plan to get out to you guys here in the near future. We are new to the YouTube editing, videoing stuff, so bear with us. And actually, after this, we're going to show you a little bit of that movie magic. We're getting into this, and it's kind of exciting what you can do with technology these days. Somebody that's never been trained in it, such as myself, just doing a little YouTube university, and you can do some pretty cool stuff. I'll show you some before and after the footage we recorded. And yeah, if you think it's cool, give it a like. Keep watching. Catch you guys in the next video.
Which if you Google, you're going to find a trillion of them. Just put T56, T56 slave shim in Google, and you'll find about 10 places that make these things. Which if you Google, you're going to find a trillion of them. Just put T56, T56 slave shim in Google, and you'll.
And real quick, I'm going to show you how you do it here. We're in Adobe Audition. You'll start hearing the crickets here. My pointer's following along each little chirp. You can see them right there. A little up, the upper middle, it's a chirp. So we're going to isolate one of them and tell the program to learn that sound model. And then we are going to go into the effects after we select the whole timeline, because we want to remove all the cricket noises from the entire audio clip. We're going to go into the noise reduction, restoration, and sound remover. And then as soon as we open up the sound remover there, it starts to do work already. It's down there in the bottom middle, working away, trying to remove all those little chirps. Insert elevator music. Do, 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 do. All right, and then in just a second here, there you go. You can see all the gaps now where they used to be, the chirps. Play it back. Come on.
Okay, taking all of our numbers that we got from measuring everything, drew a little.
And there you go, no chirps. All the crickets are gone. Magic.
When the motor and transmission come together, the clutch.
And if you guys are still with us, you're really going to like our channel. Like and follow. If you like this cool little things that we've thrown in here at the end, and do you like your Mustang running right, keep following us. We're going to keep putting out videos. Just cool little stuff we're finding in the YouTube world here. And also cool stuff we find with Mustangs. We're going to share all that with you over the next, or in the future. And yeah, hang in there, guys. Give us a like, a follow. We're new to all this, so if you have any recommendations on how we can do this better, let us know in the comments below. And yeah, thanks again.